Welcome to the PIO Podcast, a place for everything public information related for police, fire, EMS, and local government.
It was a good learning experience for a lot of us that social media is not real life.
But we have to remember the media are very rarely a target audience. They're simply that conduit.
Our words have impacts on individuals, and it may not be positive. So just being thoughtful and mindful of the words that we speak.
I think what's so interesting about this position too, and this job and this profession, is that every one of us is looking for purpose, and when we find it here, that's it.
To know is that a crisis for one is not necessarily a crisis for another.
Everybody, just wanted to get on here real quick and ask everybody if they enjoyed our content, if they've listened to us, if they want to keep us going, help support the show. And you can do that by going down to the bottom of the show notes of today's episode and clicking the link and giving us a sponsorship or even just a one-time donation. That'll really help us keep this podcast going and keep giving you new content. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy today's episode.
Farbstein and Emily Bonilla. She's a social media strategist from the Strategic Communication and Public Affairs Office. Lisa is the spokesperson for the TSA. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for being on the show. The reason I have this opportunity, I wanted to interview you guys because I do interview a few people from federal agencies, but I have yet to have anybody on from the TSAs, and I appreciate it. It's an organization that does a tremendous amount of work. I don't think anybody realizes how much you guys do. So I do appreciate you coming on. I'm sure everyone who has ever traveled since 9/11 has encountered you guys, right? Obviously, since that's when it started. Can you give us a brief overview about the staffing of the organization, the agency itself?
Okay, so let's we're gonna play a game. It looks like of Stump the Spokesperson, my favorite game, and so I'll take that one. So we have about 65,000 employees across the country. Not all of them are frontline employees. About, I think it's right around 47,000 are TSA officers. Now they might all, but it's like some of them wear the blue shirts, right? You see the blue uniform shirts at the checkpoint, but it's way more than that. We have TSA officers, the blue shirts, of course, that are working behind the scenes with check baggage. You don't tend to think about your check baggage, but all check baggage is screened as well. But we also have canine handlers, and we have analysts, program analysts. We have, people are doing anything like payroll, administrative stuff, like my job and Emily's job. But we have explosives experts. We've got surface experts for surface. I mean, usually people just think of us as being, at airports, but surface experts as well. We have cyber experts. We have pipeline experts, motor coach experts, mass transit. I could go on and on. So in total about 65,000.
And that's important. I think that I appreciate you going into a little bit more detail because I think when people hear TSA, that's all they think of are the officers in the blue shirts. And I knew there was more that you guys did. So I appreciate you going into some detail there.
And then we are one of many components of the Department of Homeland Security. Of course, we think we're the best component, but
you have a very important job. So it's something that I think that not a whole lot of people are aware of what you guys do. And that's the other reason why I wanted to get somebody from TSA on is to kind of talk about that. So
Sure.
One of the reasons I even reach out to you guys is because of your social media accounts, and they are extremely active. And you guys are posting information about, what to pack, what not to pack, highlighting staff, retirement notes, how to plan. How do you plan for content?
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in on that. So here's the thing. We have a team that is so aware of who is following us, our audience. We're meeting them where they're at. So we're participating in trends. But at the same time, not only are it's called edumacating. So we're educating through entertainment. for us, the goal is to have confident travelers, right? So what we do is basically meet them where they're at and educate them in an entertaining way, showcase the amazing things our officers are catching day in and day out. Also, some quirky things our regular travelers are contributing. And teaching them a little bit of best practice in the meantime. So we jump in on social media holidays, and overall trends. I mean, social media, every day there's a new trend to jump on.
Yeah, one of the things, Bob, that I admire about a social media team is their ability to crack a good dad joke and a pun. These folks have more puns up their sleeves than anybody I know. It's amazing.
And how
So
many
impressive.
what platforms are you guys currently running right now?
So let's see. We've got, of course, our Instagram account. We are on Threads. We are on LinkedIn, X, YouTube. Am I missing any? And
Facebook.
Facebook.
Okay. So a decent spread of social media, plus the differences involved in all those platforms now, whether it's a reel or a YouTube short or, it's phenomenal. So great job on that. So I saw a post, and this is kind of the reason I reached out to you guys. On April 24th, your main account on X said that you guys had posted an image. Passengers who engage in unruly behavior at a checkpoint or in flight may face substantial penalties and so on. I would imagine your staff sees a whole host of mannerisms and behaviors. So obviously that's an obvious reason for posting that, but let's talk about that.
So it is very unfortunate that some individuals who show up at our checkpoints, I guess, have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed. And I think that maybe the first person they engage with, other than their family, is likely a TSA employee. And sometimes that engagement doesn't go smoothly. It's unfortunate that our officers are sometimes cussed out, they are spit on, they're shoved, they're elbowed, and when that happens, we notify the police who are staffing the airport to come and intervene, and oftentimes calm down a passenger. Now, sometimes a passenger may be upset because maybe they're flying to a funeral and they're upset about that. Maybe they're flying and uh, they are, you know, I guess the term would be, fear flying. That they're not comfortable in an airplane and they're not comfortable at a checkpoint. And maybe it's somebody who hasn't flown in several years and they're somewhat timid or frustrated by the process because they're not familiar with it. And so I think that unfortunately that those sorts of incidents do happen. And the majority of people who come through our checkpoint are very polite. They thank our officers. Oh my God, during COVID, the the level of courtesy toward our officers just went up like crazy because here they were out there working when people were, masked and staying home. And also, that happened during government shutdowns where people would come and thank our officers. And I will say that I know that that was very refreshing, especially during a shutdown when they're working and not getting paid.
Right. And I'm sure that's really tough on them especially during COVID with having to be masked and work inside. And I hated wearing masks when I was inside and just having to, I don't know how they could do that all day. Just kudos to them for that. I have a funny story that happened to a person in front of me at a checkpoint at Dallas Fort Worth Airport. This is, I don't know, maybe 4 years after 9/11, and I'm going through the airport, and I'm coming back from a conference, and there's two gentlemen in suits in front of me, and one guy goes through no problem. The other guy, he's kind of a brash, loud guy to begin with. He starts going off on the agent that's x-raying his bag because the bag keeps going through and coming back out because they want to check the bag because there's something in there. He's going off on him, and then he goes through. He was wearing a belt. He had to go take the belt off, come back through again. He kept getting worse and worse, and finally, I heard them say, "We're taking you to secondary check." They pulled him out of the line, and I left. And the guy that was in front of him had picked up his stuff and was walking, and he comes back. He goes, "Hey, did you see that guy I was with?" I go, Yeah, I think he's gonna probably suffer some delay in his flight. He was not on the
Mm.
flight. The guy, that other his friend, was on the same flight as me. He was not on the flight.
Oh,
You know,
let me
it's
know what
it's
happened.
unfortunate, but it just is the way it is. So here's something I saw today. You have pinned on your X account, voluntary facial recognition technology is being used to expedite security. How is that being received? Because a lot of people, they get like nervous when they hear facial recognition.
So I'll tell you, it's very convenient, and we're getting mostly really good feedback. What happens is it's called credential authentication technology, and the newer units, of which we have something like 800 installed so far at airports across the country, and what happens is it is matching the face that is there in front of the TSA officer with the face on the ID. So whether that's say a passport or a driver's license. And you don't even have to hand your boarding pass to the TSA officer because that unit is smart enough to know that you are ticketed to fly out of that airport for that day. Now you might not think that's a big deal, but I can tell you that some people show up a day early, some people show up a day late, some people show up at Washington Dulles International Airport when they meant to fly out of Reagan-National Airport or Baltimore Washington International Airport. Some people show up at LaGuardia when they should be at JFK, and say same thing in Chicago. You're in Chicago. There's a couple airports, so that machine is smart enough that to know that you're ticketed to fly out of that airport that day. But again, you don't need to show your boarding pass. The ID, once it's a facial match, and it just takes like 3-4 seconds, then so again, it's very convenient. It's touchless because you can feed your driver's license or your passport into the machine yourself, and the officer says, "Okay, you're good to go." Assuming you're good to go. But basically, it is a huge enhancement of security because it can really identify fraudulent ID. And the TSA officers are practiced on how to use that technology. And if for some reason that technology is not available, they just go to the backup and check IDs as they were previously. But we have indeed caught several individuals with falsified IDs, and that's never a good outcome for that individual.
Oh, that's awesome. So, I didn't even realize you guys were using facial recognition. I mean, I know I have pre-check, so I mean, I know they took a picture of me and all that, so I'd assume that that's part of the process, but I didn't. I haven't flown in like the last 6 months, so haven't really realized it. But that's outstanding. Great job.
Well, the other important thing to note is you may opt out of the photo. If you're uncomfortable with that, you just tell the officer, I'd like to opt out of the photo, and you can still go through the screening process.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well, so that there is an option for people, and again, that's something maybe not everybody realizes. So that's good to know. Emily, I noticed something today, and I always kind of peruse people's stuff before I get them on the air, and I'm going through your timeline on X, and I saw something posted today with someone wearing chicken feet socks. Where'd you get that photo? And how are you getting this stuff from airports all over the country?
Oh, that one is a fun fact. We have seen a trend of people working out with these chicken socks, and it's pretty hilarious. And we're like, wouldn't it be cool to find some sort of video of somebody going through the airport with those socks? And well, it just so happens that a team member was flying, got her pair of socks, and shot herself going through security. So that one was a stage one, but it was a great plug, not only because it's attention grabbing, right? So that's kind of where we're at with social media. It's like, how can we, a little bit of a shock value, how can we get people to stick around and pause a little bit and maybe scratch their head a little bit, like, what is this picture all about? So that was a great opportunity to plug in TSA pre-check, because guess what, you wouldn't have to expose your socks or your chicken legs for that matter if you had TSA pre-check. So, we're always trying to find innovative ways to plug in, something that makes traveling a little bit more easier for the public.
And on the other side of it is, like, I've seen you guys post pictures of like rocket launchers, things not to bring. And at the same time, if you didn't say not to bring that, would somebody be stupid enough to try and bring it?
I think those are the opportunities for us to humanize the workforce. I mean, they have such a thankless job. It's a reminder that, our officers day in and day out are catching some crazy off the wall items and kind of risking their safety sometimes while looking through bags. And, we have a responsibility to, be mindful of our officers who, they're the reason why you're able to arrive safely to your destination. So those are the awesome good catches that we're able to showcase to really, not necessarily highlight a bonehead move from a traveler, but really to highlight the officer's amazing catch of catching it before it entered an aircraft.
Yeah, you'd be surprised perhaps that how many things that TSA officers catch that we call it artfully concealed items. People will tape knives and blades under the handles of their roller bags, under the lining of their suitcase, in the soles of their shoes. They will tape things to their bodies. I mean, people. You know what people do? It's crazy. They will tape things using aluminum foil. I don't understand that. They'll wrap something in aluminum foil and then tape it to their body, or somehow conceal it among their carry-ons, tape it to something in the line. It's nuts.
Yeah, thinking it's not going to get caught. Yeah, I know. I went through the last time I went through checkpoint. I was going through the scanner and the all body scanner, and he's like, "Oh, you got a spot here in the middle of my back." I'm like, I'm trying to think. It was one of those days I was wearing a sweater and I was really warm, and he says, "I bet you it's a hot spot. Don't worry." And he patted me down. He goes, "You're good to go." And so, but I mean, it's like things like that. I appreciate them explaining because it helps me understand better, for future.
When you do go through the body scanner, the one that you put your hands up over your head. In some airports, you just put your arms down to the side, depending on which airport it is. What happens is you can kind of look over your shoulder at the monitor that the TSA officer is looking at, and if it has a yellow, we call it a bounding box on maybe your shoulder or your back or something, that way they can just do a pat down. We call it a targeted pat down of that area, as opposed to a whole full body pat down. And so if they tell you, it looks like there might be something on your leg, you can kind of turn around and look at that screen and say, and you'll know why they're saying that.
Well, thank you for that. Emily, how are you getting this stuff? How do you get the TSA agents across the country to send you this stuff?
Well, so here's the thing. This is why we have an amazing working relationship with our spokespeople, because they have these amazing working relationships with the airport. So this is where working as a team and collaborating really comes in hand, because airports have to report these artfully concealed items. And I know we were talking about the artfully concealed items, but equally, people are forgetting that they're packing items that aren't allowed. And so this is a great opportunity for us to do those reminders of, hey, it might have been a while since you've last traveled. So check your bags, make sure everything's like emptied out, check all the pockets. So it's kind of like 50-50 down the line. Yes, artfully concealed, but then there's these whoopsie moments as well. So these good catches come from our fellow spokespeople, the airport, the field. At this point, we've had our accounts for well over a decade, so people can feed these information to us very easily as a learning experience. So um, that's pretty much how we get our info, our intel.
Well, I find the level of humor and educational engagement that you guys have in your accounts exceptional. You guys are doing a great job, and kudos to you for putting out the content and the level that you're doing it, and it's all over the spectrum. So it's so enjoyable that there's value in it. So again, kudos to you guys for the great work you're doing.
No, thank you. A fun fact and a shameless plug, our team is made up of predominantly former officers of agents, so former field officers. So they all worked in the airport at one point in their lives, and are all self-taught. So they're bringing expertise from their role on the field, also relating to the traveling public. So I really truly believe that that is the secret to the sauce, is just having that level of experience. And we're all spread out across the country. So that level of experience across the country, and having a little fun, and staying true to the mission and making sure that the takeaway is that the travelers are educated and kind of know where to go for more information if needed too.
Awesome. Lisa, you brought up something before we started the interview today, and I'm gonna grab this from you because you mentioned it. We are coming into busy travel season, right? There's a lot going on, and you had mentioned some numbers in travelers and so on. So I know COVID, COVID really shut down the airline industry and stuff. What are you guys seeing numbers wise right now going through the airports?
Thanks. Yeah. So we're seeing elevated numbers of travelers going through our checkpoints. Just this last week, on Monday of last week, we recorded our seventh busiest day in TSA history, and then Friday, just a few days ago, we recorded the ninth busiest day in TSA history. You're right, nationwide in terms of, we call it throughput, meaning the number of people who go through our checkpoints and we screen. So the busiest day in our history was November 26th of 2023. So that would have been right around Thanksgiving. Likely I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to guess it was the Sunday after Thanksgiving, which is usually the busiest day of the year. And we screened 2.9 million people. Well, right now we are expecting this summer to be so busy that we're exceeding pre-pandemic levels. And I'd say it is very possible that we're going to be seeing many more days hit that top 10 and possibly even a new number one. The real watch will be, we're going to be on the lookout for any day that might actually hit 3 million for the very first time.
And now, a word from our sponsor. In today's climate, you need to be able to communicate, whether you're communicating to those you serve, your peers, or your constituents. Whether you're looking for professional development or to work with a professional, John Guilfoyle Public Relations has you covered. From crisis communications to website development, visit our website at jgpr.net or call us directly at 617-993-0003 to get started today. We'll help you tell your story strategically. Now let's return back to our episode.
And talk about the stress level of everybody involved, because if that many bodies are going through your checkpoints, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, and so you're going to see Emily's team posting many reminders, whether that is urgency to get to the airport early, because if we're going to see 300,000 more people on a given day than another day, just assume all 300,000 of those people are in line in front of you, okay? So you need to get to the airport early. And we have a saying, it's called know before you go. And the idea is it's important to know what is in specifically your carry-on bag before you get to the airport, because you don't want it to trigger an alarm, because that means you're going to get pulled to the side, your bag is going to get pulled to the side, somebody's going to have to go open it and figure out what it was that triggered that alarm, to make sure there's nothing that's prohibited. And that can slow you down, and eventually that can slow down other people behind you. So those are some of the tips that you're going to see them offering in very creative ways.
Thank you. Hey, I didn't realize this. The TSA has an app.
Do you want to do that one, Emily? Or you want me to take that one?
Either or, you could take the lead and then I can chime in where necessary.
So we have a free downloadable app, and it's called My TSA. And my favorite feature is what can I bring? And so you can type in an item and it will let you know where you can pack it. Should you bring it in your check bag, your carry-on bag, either or neither? A good example would be knitting needles. I think a lot of people might think you can't bring knitting needles, but it will tell you can. Bring knitting needles in a carry-on bag. Sparklers. Right around July 4th, we're going to see people bringing who want to bring sparklers and fireworks. Even sparklers are not permitted in a carry-on bag or a check bag. If you do want to bring your tools, people bring a lot of tools, and if they're larger than 7 inches, please put them in your check bag. So you'll find lots of handy tips there. But that app also has other features. It can talk to you or can inform you about whether there are delays at your airport, and so that you're aware of those sorts of things. And it can let you know what times the TSA pre-check lanes are open at the various airports. So super helpful free downloadable app, My TSA.
And I'm on
Absolutely.
it.
You can
I'm on
also-
it right now, and it's really great. I mean, it's a great little app. I had no clue they had this because it's phenomenal. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, you can even store your pre-check number as well, your KTN number. So everyone always misplaces it or can't find their KTN, and it's a great place to store that number for your pre-check travel. And then, of course, shameless plug, there is a direct link to contact our Ask TSA team, which is a customer service app that anything you need to know about your travel, the Ask TSA team is able to answer in real time.
So that's real people. That's not an AI?
It's real people.
Oh, that's good to know. Excellent. Every year I see information posted about seizures at airport checkpoints. You know, you guys do a great job of education, but have you seen a decrease and an increase when you're putting out your educational stuff? Or are people just, like you said, forgetful, dense, or just plain stupid?
Probably a combination. But first of all, let's go over what happens when somebody has a prohibited item with them. So if somebody has a prohibited item with them, and the most common are different types of knives. People travel with knives all the time, whether that's a credit card knife, a fishing knife, a keychain knife, whether it's a hunting knife, a Boy Scout knife, I mean, just any kind of knife. And so let's say somebody shows up with a knife in their carry-on or among their carry-on items, the TSA officer will give the traveler a choice. How do you want to handle it? Do you want to put it in a check bag? Because all those items are fine in a check bag. Do you want to hand it off to a non-traveling companion, somebody perhaps who has just dropped you off at the curb, and you call them up, hey, swing back around. I forgot I had my credit card knife in my wallet. Or you can, some airports have mailing centers. You can mail it either to your destination or to your home. And your last resort really is to voluntarily surrender it to TSA. So you used the word when we started this little conversation, you used the word seize. So we don't see it that way because the traveler was given the option of how they wanted to handle the situation. And if they wanted to then eventually decide to voluntarily abandon it with TSA, then we'll make sure that we take care of it. Those items are then donated to the states. And the state then has the option of disposing of it. Many states will sell them either online or at an auction or at a local shop, and the state makes a profit. TSA makes no profit. Something similar happens with a firearm. If somebody shows up with a firearm, not only is that prohibited, but, hey, that's illegal, whether that's loaded or unloaded. And so what happens is if there's a firearm found in a carry-on bag, the X-ray machine is basically stopped. The conveyor belt is stopped. So everybody in that line now has to wait for a police officer to show up at the checkpoint. And usually that does not actually take long. They're in the airport. And we have the police officer remove the carry-on bag from the X-ray machine because we do not want our officers handling firearms because that could just be an accident waiting to happen. So it's the police that will confiscate or seize a firearm, not TSA. We are not law enforcement. So then it's up to the police whether somebody is criminally cited or arrested or neither. That often depends on the jurisdiction. And TSA will typically end up submitting a report, and the individual is likely to be cited by the federal government, and that is a federal financial civil penalty that can run into thousands of dollars.
Okay, so there's two different penalties then. There's the arrest that may potentially happen, and then there is the financial penalty that comes via the federal government, via the TSA, correct?
Correct. And then if the individual is enrolled in the TSA pre-check program, they're booted out.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good to know. Yeah, I always make sure I check my bags. Many, many years ago, this is 2002, I think. No, not 2002. It was pre 9/11. I had flown to Orange County for a conference, and I had a work bag with me, and in the work bag was my off-duty weapon. And it went through. I got off the airport, and I go to grab my wallet, which was in the outer pocket, and I had a firearm in there. I'm like, oh, crap, what do I do? So I walked up to the desk at Orange County, and there's a cop up there. It's like a big, tall desk. And I walked up there, and I said, I have a problem. And I go, I have my off-duty weapon in here, and I shouldn't. I don't know how it got through security. He walked me over to his office. He goes, "It happens. You'd be surprised it happens." And we ended up calling the airport. He called O'Hare. I don't know who he talked to, but I guess the X-ray machine was set in test mode. Because they asked me all kinds of questions. They wanted to know where I came through, what my flight was, what my time was. They found me on camera, and then they found at the machine. So they had to clear the whole terminal for that section because that machine was not operating the whole time I flew.
And that was pre 9/11.
Pre 9/11, yeah, pre 9/11.
Wow, that's interesting.
That was a tough one getting it back. I had to get my chief to send a letter. It was all kind of. That was even pre Leoka, that was before you could carry, if you had the gun with you and you had your credentials.
So all right, then if you're gonna dime yourself out on that, I'll tell you an embarrassing story of my own. I don't know if Emily has heard this. So this was before pre-check, and I was traveling for work. And so this was at LaGuardia Airport. And so I went through the checkpoint, and the officer holds up a backpack. Says, "Whose backpack is this?" And I was like, "It's mine." Oh my gosh. I forgot to take my laptop out of my bag. And he reaches for the luggage tag. Now, the luggage tag was my business card. And he reaches for and I was like, "Oh, no, don't turn that over. Don't turn that over." And I was like, "Don't look, please don't look." And he looks at the luggage tag and he sees, the TSA logo and everything. And he looks and he goes, "Really?" I was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." He says, "It happens all the time." And then he says, "Hey guys, check this out." So he totally embarrassed me. I have never made any kind of mistake like that.
Yeah, I've always been very careful since then too. Yeah, just freaks me out. I make sure I shake my bag out before I leave and load it up because I want to make sure I don't have any mistakes in there.
That is one of our top tips is start with an empty bag. If you've got a backpack, a duffel bag, your roller bag, a handbag, whatever it is you're traveling with, really empty it out and then start from scratch and repack it. I mean, I can't tell you what I put in my handbag 2 weeks ago. So I certainly could have put something in there that shouldn't go through a checkpoint. So that's
is a recommendation for time to arrive at the airport. Is it still 2 hours?
It honestly depends on the size of the airport and the time of day. The busiest time at most airports are first thing in the morning. So it could be any time between like maybe 4:30 in the morning to maybe 7:30 in the morning. And then there's usually an afternoon rush hour. So many people, especially at a smaller airport, are making a connecting flight to a larger airport. So yeah, it's really, especially at the larger airports that have tens of thousands of people who are screened every day, definitely 2 hours before your scheduled flight. Because think of it this way, especially now, especially after Memorial Day, it will take you longer to park a car. If you're returning a rental car, it could take you longer to return the rental car. If you're checking a bag, you are going to see lines at your airline check-in counters. And all of that is before you even get to the TSA checkpoint.
Guys, is there a question I should have asked? And if so, how would you have answered it?
We talked about travel tips. Here's one. Well, this is one of my favorites. We call this a 3-1-1 bag. So it's got my liquids, gels, and aerosols in it. And so we call it a 3-1-1 bag because each item has to be 3.4 ounces or smaller, 1 quart-size bag, 1 bag per person. And so 3.4 ounces, where the heck did we get that from, right? Well, 3.4 ounces is the equivalent of 100 milliliters, so that's an international standard. Now, what we're going to see this summer are people who are traveling to go to the beach, wherever they're traveling, whatever beach in the country or outside of the country, and they're going to be traveling with suntan lotion. And so keep that in mind. If your suntan lotion, your shampoo, your toiletries are larger than 3.4 ounces or 100 milliliters, please just pack it in your check bag. Another option is buy it when you get there. Just purchase it when you get there.
I think Lisa is being very, very modest. She has the best slogan in case you're curious of what a liquid is. So I think this is the best takeaway, best travel tip for the rest of the summer.
Right. So if you can spill it, spread it, spray it, pump it, or pour it, then we consider it a liquid gel or aerosol, and it should go in your little 311 bag, 3.4 ounces or smaller. Spill it, spread it, spray it, pump it, or pour it.
I like that. Lisa, very good. That's an awesome one. All right, let's lighten this up, guys. Let's go to some rapid fire questions, okay? Texting or talking?
It depends with who, right?
I'm a talker.
Yeah, everybody's different.
Yeah,
Chocolate?
it depends on the person, but I'll do a talking too.
Okay. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Swirl?
There you go. That's okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate, okay.
Hot chocolate.
All right, here's one, guys. Ladies, adult drink of choice.
Hot chocolate with a shot of peppermint schnapps.
I like a cab. A nice glass of a cab.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Mine is speed. I could clean the house fast. I could pack my bag fast. I could make dinner fast.
Let's see. Superpower. I guess, world peace, rolling back climate change, ending hunger.
You really have a very magnanimous. I love that. That's awesome. Ask permission or beg for forgiveness?
I think Lisa and I are in the same boat with this one. We're begging for forgiveness.
It is a communication person's way. It really is.
Absolutely. Place
you would most like to travel to?
Right now, I'd like to go to Greece.
I'm ticketed to visit Sicily later this year, so I'll have to say Sicily. That's my next.
Yeah, that would be my next one. My parents were back in Sicily. They went and visited my father's village where he came from, and they found the family home. And they met cousins they didn't know they had. Yeah, absolutely beautiful pictures. You're gonna love it. First celebrity crush.
All right, so I don't know if this counts, but when I was little, I wanted to be Brooks Robinson, who was a Hall of Fame third baseman for the Baltimore Orioles. I grew up in the Baltimore area, so I don't know that it was a crush, but I totally wanted to be Brooks Robinson.
Mine's between Jordan McKnight from New Kids on the Block and Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Ooh, okay. Guilty pleasure food.
Hot soft pretzels from Philadelphia.
I think like the perfect seasoned twice fried French fry, a little crispy with an aioli. That for me would do it for me.
Nice.
If you could have coffee with any historical figure, living or dead, who would it be?
Jackie Robinson. Baseball fan here. So.
I was going to say Marilyn Monroe because I wanted the tea. Something happened, and I want to expose whatever happened to her and I would talk.
You are a gossip girl. I love it. Ladies, what key points would you like our listeners to take from today's interview?
I would go back to know before you go, Emily. There's so many ways you can find out where you should pack an item, if you should pack the item. Our Twitter team is amazing at Ask TSA. You can even text to them. You know what else? We have a line called TSA Cares. So if somebody is traveling with a medical condition or somebody in their traveling group who has a disability, they can contact our TSA Cares line, and they can find out or get their questions answered so they know what to expect when they get to the checkpoint. So TSA Cares is good, and it's 855-787-2227. Emily,
I would add, trust the source. We do a wonderful job being present and being fully aware of sharing the facts. And if in doubt, be sure to follow us on all our social platforms because you will be giving the facts. Go straight to the source would be my best travel tip.
Great.
Yeah, I think some other travel tips are people travel with gifts. We do encourage people or discourage people from wrapping the gift or encourage them to not wrap it because if it does trigger an alarm, the TSA officer might have to unwrap it to determine the contents to just make sure that What they have to resolve the alarm. What caused
Right.
the alarm?
I remember I was coming back from New York City, and I had stopped in Hoboken. My daughter wanted food from the Cake Boss's bakery, and I got all kinds of stuff, and I ended up going on the TSA website, making sure to figure out, can I bring food through? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, perfect. So I came through, and oh man, all the guys and gals that were there, like, you may want to take a little bit before you go.
So Bob, people travel with food all the time, whether it's holiday season or not. And for the most part, foods are permitted to go through a checkpoint. Again, it's got to be a solid. If you can spill it, spread it, spray it, pump it, or pour it, then it's not permitted through a checkpoint. You do get a little questioning as it relates to spreading it. So Nutella is a spreadable. Peanut butter is a spreadable. Even think about a can of corn, and if you shake it, there's liquid inside. So you can always ask us about food, holiday time of year. I mean, even Thanksgiving, we'll see people bringing full turkeys. Emily, what did somebody have concealed in a chicken? Do you remember?
A firearm.
Yeah. It's a normal place to put it, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Apparently.
I would say just one other quick travel tip. As TSA, not only can you reach them through X and Facebook through Messenger or DM, but you can now just text them. And when I'm talking about, just take a photo and send it off to Ask TSA, send them to travel, and they will respond in no time, whether something can fly or not. So I think that's the best takeaway.
I will add all that into the show notes because I think a lot of our listeners, as well as the general public, are not aware of a lot of those simple things that they could do. I love that. Ladies, how could people best reach out to you if they want to connect or follow up or learn where the humor comes from for your social media accounts? Because I love it. It's an awesome job.
Ours is simple. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, YouTube at TSA.
And I will add all that in the show notes.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Lisa and Emily, thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
That's all for this week. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get notified on the latest episode. If you are listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please give us a review. Any review is appreciated. To support our efforts with the PIO podcast, you can click on the support button in the show notes, and any donation is appreciated. Thank you.